It's time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola, presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
Well, happy Friday, everyone. As we all predicted, the Edmonton Oilers winning 4 straight to take the Battle of Alberta in 5 games, and nothing says a gentleman's sweep like a Popeye's chicken sandwich. So go get your hands on one of those today at all of the participating Popeye's locations. Tommy, what's up, my man?
Well, I just ate candy for lunch, so that tells you where we're at. I mean, it's been I
haven't even had lunch yet.
Oh, my goodness. Last night's post-game show, people were emotional and excited and over the moon, and rightly so, but we went quite a while, and I don't know, Dusty, like I went right to bed at, I think we finished the show at 12:25, 12:30-ish, and I just went right to bed. I think I put it on YouTube and I started watching a couple of clips, and I woke up this morning at like 7:45 and I'm like, no, I need more sleep. I think you just like, wow, like the Battle of Alberta takes its toll. I can't imagine the people that were drinking this last week and a half, because holy smokes, man, like rest up.
We had a few guys call in today that sounded like they had pretty rough nights. Pretty rough nights. Even I might sound like I've got a little bit of a pretty rough night. But I mean, I was up to like 12:45 and then back up at 4:30 this morning because I had to pre-tape Mike Johnson early today because he's overseas. So it was, yeah, I'm tired. But I mean, totally worth it. That game last night was absolutely insane. I don't even know where to start, to be honest with you, Tommy. I mean, let's kind of just go from the beginning along here. They did not start well, and Jay Woodcroft decides to break up the hottest line in the National Hockey League to slide Zach Hyman up there with McDavid and Draisaitl, moves Kane down, slides Yamamoto up, and then puts Puljujarvi with McLeod and Fogle. I thought that line was pretty good. Like, I thought that top 9 really hit. I mean, were you surprised that Woodcroft was so quick to pull the trigger on Draisaitl, McDavid, and Kane?
Yes, I was. I thought he would just keep, fighting fire with fire, for a lack of a better term. But clearly he saw something early in that game where he needed to make an adjustment. And Michael Backlund was the best player for the Flames in that entire series. So Jay Woodcroft, good instincts. It didn't take him long to realize that something wasn't clicking. Sadly, that was Edmonton's best start in Calgary, only being down a goal.
That's true. Yeah.
I'm watching that and I'm like, that's their best start in the Saddle Dome in this series. And you know what? They came away all right. I know they got down 2-0, but that second period was absolutely nuts. So I didn't anticipate him going away from Kane, McDavid, Draisaitl, but clearly he had a strategy in mind. And as soon as he saw the trigger, whatever that was, depending on how the Flames were playing or whatever Daryl Sutter was doing, and he said, you know what? I got to switch it up. Here's my plan. And he put it into motion. It did just enough to get them going in the right direction right after that. And it helped them dig themselves out of another hole. And it led to a crazy second period where you saw an NHL record 4 goals in a minute 11 where nobody could make a save. and then, overtime, and they won. Like, I just kudos to Jay Woodcroft. And I think it's fair to say that he outcoached Daryl Sutter, and it's a far cry from Game 5 against LA, where people were saying Todd McLellan was totally owning Jay Woodcroft. Well, I mean, the amount of strategy that he's put into this and the stuff he's implemented and executed on has shown that he's much more wily than perhaps some people anticipated.
I thought somebody actually texted into my show this morning, because I tweeted last night. I said Jay Woodcroft coached Daryl Sutter out of this series. And somebody texted in to say, Dusty, you're nothing but a McDavid homer, and you're an idiot, and you're a loser for thinking Jay Woodcroft outcoached Daryl Sutter in this series, because Jay Woodcroft's got the best players in the world, and you don't need to be a great coach. He said an idiot could have coached them. And I look at one guy who made adjustments after game 1, who made adjustments multiple times while winning games along the way. against a guy who really didn't do anything the entire series. Like, I don't know how anybody can watch this series and go, oh, yeah, Woodcroft totally didn't outcoach Daryl Sutter. I thought this was some fine work. I tweeted today, the Oilers could sign Jay Woodcroft to a 5-year, $100 million deal, and nobody would even think twice about it in this city. I think Yaremchuk replied and said they could take it out of the taxpayers' money, and nobody would say a thing. Like, I thought he was... The fact that he went away from Kane, McDavid, and Draisaitl just shows how well he coached in this series. And I don't like Zach Hyman was a monster in this series.
Yes.
And, McDavid really wasn't going. Draisaitl, who's unreal, but not at 100%. I feel like he's like, you know what? We didn't get Hyman on that line to just do something for these two guys, because Kane is a finisher, but Kane doesn't initiate and carry a lot of stuff like Hyman does. I thought it was just a genius move.
It was. And there are things, and you know what, stupid text message aside that goes in. I mean, we get a ton of ridiculous text messages. We get some good ones too. So kudos to the texters who actually send us in good texts. But Daryl Sutter didn't seem to have an answer in the last couple of days.
Yeah, what did he do?
He was asked about, I mean, you would watch him in the press conferences, and he, to me, seemed sincerely at a loss. He didn't seem like Daryl Sutter, the sly genius that was kind of toying with the media. Like, he came out, and when he discussed things at the press conferences, I was like, he's not the same right now. He's in his own head. He's trying to figure things out. Like, something's up here. And I thought so again yesterday when he had his availability. And I think he just kind of made one adjustment. And I think his solution was throwing Backlund at the top line and figuring that, all right, let's see how this goes. And Woodcroft had an answer to it. And so to suggest that Jay Woodcroft didn't outcoach Daryl Sutter in this series, I think is ridiculous. And yes, Jay Woodcroft has two of the best players in the world at his disposal, but there's been some very good coaches who have also had those two and not worked it the same way that Woodcroft has to that same success. I mean, he's taken the Oilers further than anybody else, further than Todd McLellan did. He took them to where Mac T took the Oilers. I know Mac T went to the Stanley Cup final, and that took a lot of strategic deployment of players and changing tactics and all of that back in 2006. But Jay Woodcroft has done something that no Oilers coach, the 15 of them or whatever, I know I'm joking and hyperbolizing, that have been behind the Oilers bench in the last 16 years could do.
You're not even that far off, really.
I know, it's sad.
And Jay Woodcroft has done something that none of them were able to do, and that is exit the bench onto the ice with so much swag. Did you see the video of him? Flings the gate open, arm kind of up, 2 steps, hand up on the bench, and then hand on the hip, just waiting. I mean, some of the replies, Woodcroft has simply become a legend with Oilers fans, but some of the replies and some of the, like, this is me here. The one guy said, this is me waiting for my donaire. I thought that was just like, that's incredible. You're right. You got your one hand, hands on the hip. You're like, okay, let's go. It just, everything the guy does right now is gold. The way, pictures of him with those 4 Cowboys girls in behind him last night when they're all touching his hand when it's on the glass. It's just like, the guy can do no wrong, Tommy. This is Jay Woodcroft's town right now.
Unbelievable. Good for him. He's worked very hard. He's a very nice man. I have nothing but respect for him, and he's earned it. When he flung the gate open and he sat there and he waited, I was just like, sassy. I don't think it's
so good.
Epic in its own way. It's not quite Glenn Sather after the Gretzky goal in '88, kind of giving the fist pump to the crowd, but it's its own thing and pretty funny, and it'll go down in the history of the Battle of Alberta. Edmonton 5-1 against Calgary in the Battle of Alberta, which is absolutely incredible, and I hope we see more of these because that was a crazy week and a half.
Draisaitl finishes these 5 games with 17 points. Yeah. And going into this series here on the Oil Stream, on your pregame, on my show, whenever anybody would chat about this series, you're going, Draisaitl coming out of the series against the Kings where, didn't really do a ton in game 6 and 7, was clearly laboring. Connor McDavid puts the team on his back and carries them. You're going, well, what are they going to get out of Leon Draisaitl? I actually think my prediction was, the Edmonton Oilers are going to be in tough if Leon Draisaitl is going to be injured in this series. Some people were thinking you wouldn't even play him in game 1 just to get some rest so he'd be good to go in game 2. And Tommy, he gets 17 points, 2 goals and 15 assists in 5 games. So he keeps saying he's fine. Is he just fine, or does he not feel pain in his ankle, or how did he pull this off?
Well, sheer will and determination. And I think he was getting better. I mean, you could see in the last couple of games, especially, there's a little bit more pep in his step. Absolutely. Yeah. And he was starting to carry the puck a little bit more. So that's a good sign. I think that's a sign that he's getting better, and that ankle or the leg, whatever is ailing him right now, is healing up. Now he gets a couple of extra days for that to heal. A record. What does he have? 5 straight games with 3+ points. I mean, just, I remember reading people saying, why don't they rest him? I'm like, that's the wrong way to go about this. He says he's fine. He still put up points in those last couple games against LA, and then he just goes and shuts everyone up with a 17-point performance through 5 games. Oh, by the way, Connor McDavid with 12 points. Those two combined for 52 these playoffs. It's baffling. It's incredible. It just shows you all that talk of them saying, you know what, the regular season's one thing and the playoffs is a whole different beast, and that's where they want to prove it. They're proving it. They're putting their money where their mouth is. The task gets tougher now. But my goodness, are they ever rolling right now?
It is. It's unlike anything we've seen in the modern National Hockey League. Last year, the Stanley Cup champions finished the playoffs. Kucherov had 32 points in 23 games. Point had 23. Hedman, Stamkos, and Killorn had 18, 18, and 17. These two guys each have exactly 7 goals, 19 assists, 26 points. And you said, they've got 52 points in the playoffs. That's more than the top 2 Tampa Bay Lightning Stanley Cup champions had last year. And it's in 12 games. Like this, you could have, imagine if we would have come on the Oil Stream and people would have been watching this before the playoffs, and I said, I think McDavid and Draisaitl are going to combine for 52 points in the first 12 games. They would have said, Dusty, you're living in a dream world. This isn't a video game. Yet they've done it. McDavid's like plus 19. Draisaitl's plus 7. Yeah. McDavid's plus 19 in 12 games. Tommy, this feels, for Oilers fans, I'm sure, it feels like a dream right now. Like it's remarkable what those two guys are doing. I don't have a word for it.
Edmonton Oilers fans have been waiting a long time. They've suffered through a lot of shit, and now they're being rewarded. And it's nice to see. It's fun to cover. And these two are writing their script and their storylines in the postseason. Their legacy is currently being formed with their play. And I mean, again, let's see what they can do against some stiffer competition. But it's absolutely incredible. And I know Oilers fans are embracing it. I know NHL fans are, whichever ones were doubters before, Dusty, are probably looking at this going, holy, you know what? These guys are effing good. This is, if there wasn't a coming out party for them in the NHL, this is certainly it.
The last pre-COVID playoffs, St. Louis, Boston, the leading scorers that year were Marchand with 23 points, O'Reilly with 23, and Couture and Jaden Schwartz both had 20. So those guys have already passed those guys in 12 games, in 2 rounds. It's bloody ridiculous. And not to mention Zach Hyman scoring in every single game in the Battle of Alberta. Like, if this guy didn't have legendary status already, Tommy, I mean, I saw a dozen. Hyman's the new Pisani text messages today. And I mean, Hyman is a better player than Pisani was. I think Pisani's run was more miraculous. But Hyman, as far as levels of importance goes, I know Evander Kane's had a great playoff so far, but I think outside of McDavid and Draisaitl, I put Hyman in that number 3 spot right now. He's been better than advertised.
The motor on every line, and a consummate pro through and through, never stops. You know exactly what you're getting from him every single shift, and that's why they signed him. And I've seen so many people text me and say, hey, the Leafs could really use a guy like Zach Hyman. And you know what? That's the Oilers' benefit. And that was a great signing, and it's proving to be so. And let's see if he can continue this, because it's been absolutely tremendous to see. Every time he's on the ice, Dusty, you know exactly what you're getting. Hard work, determination, and and he's doing all the things right.
Yeah, it's not the like when you look at it from a Zach Hyman perspective, it's not just the Leafs who need him. Every single team in the National Hockey League, no matter like the Florida Panthers, the Colorado, everybody could use a Zach Hyman. The Oilers managed to get him, and it was really crazy. It just was like it was just assumed. Remember, like when Hyman was the Leafs, like, oh, he's going to sign with the Oilers next year, and that's going to be it. And he did. He's got 6 years left at $5.5 million per, and he's been huge for them in this postseason. All right, Tommy, let's get back to that game last night. Goal or no goal? What'd you think of the breakdown of that entire thing? Because just very quickly, I mean, I was kind of torn on it until I saw that top view over top of kind of Mike Smith, where you do see the leg extend a little bit and propel that puck a little bit more. I still think it would have gone in even if he didn't touch it. I don't know what he was thinking. But he looked down and he extended his leg, and then he adjusted his leg after he kicked it to make sure he didn't smash right into the post. So I thought it shouldn't have been counted, but I was still stunned that they overturned it. Is that fair?
Yeah, I felt the same way. I was like, there's no way they're calling that back. But then you watch it and you go, well, it looked deliberate. And now it comes down to the interpretation of a kicking motion or not a kicking motion, because Dusty, there's no denying it. Like, you see how he's going in, he's looking at the puck, and then his leg all of a sudden goes and it knocks it in. Now, is that guiding it or is that a kick? Well, the league determined it was a kick. So if it determines it's a kick, no goal. But there's no denying that was deliberate. And the high angle that you mentioned, when we saw that, I think
that's the clear one, right?
Emphasizes it. You could see it on that low angle too. It's like, no. He's not just going in because he got caught up in Mike Smith's pad. It's like he got his foot on it. And then the salt in the wound is the fact that Backlund's shot was going in. He didn't need to do that. And it's an awful break for the Flames. The league judged it to be a kicking motion, and the Oilers benefit. And unfortunately, that's it for the Calgary Flames. But do I think it was the right call? Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it was deliberate. Now, what's the interpretation of the rule?
That's the thing.
And of
that's
the
tough.
Kicking motion, the league deemed it to be a kick. Do I think it was necessarily a kick? No. But do I think he did definitely punch it in with his foot? Yes.
Yeah, like, did he know what he was doing? Yes. Was it just a straight stopping motion and let that puck bounce off your skate and in? No. So, I mean, I just thought that they might look at it, with how officiating is. They might look at it and go, damn, this is very close. It was going in anyway. Good goal. I was pretty stunned when the ref stepped back and was like, we got no goal. I was like, holy smokes. So, and with that being said, I mean, I see, a few folks being like, oh, it's a travesty. The NHL should. This did not determine the series, okay? It may have determined last night's game, but Calgary kept blowing lead after lead after lead after lead anyway, so who's to say the Oilers don't come back and tie it and win it in overtime anyway? Plus, it was only Game 5. This is not Game 7 in the third period. So I know people are trying to build it up like it's, the 2004 goal for the Flames or the Kessler opening the pad. That's not what this was. And technically, I think they got it right anyway. So maybe kudos to the National Hockey League in that situation, because that would not have been an easy call to make. And too funny. All right, and then let's get to overtime, Tommy. And Johnny Gaudreau getting torched down in Calgary, because, I mean, he could have made a play on Leon Draisaitl. I joked today he kind of swooped around and just headed to Philly because he knew he wasn't going to get anything done in that situation. Draisaitl gets it to McDavid. Kachuk's left watching. And I thought it was just the perfect way for that series to finish. Not so much from a McDavid perspective, but for the Oilers to score the series clinching goal about this far off the ice on Markstrom. Because they made a living in this series shooting just inside the post, 18 inches, 24 inches off the ice. That was the way that series was supposed to end.
Yeah, incredible. The flyby from Johnny Gaudreau, not even engaging on the wall in overtime. I don't know if he was breaking for Philly or New Jersey or what, but I like that line, Dusty. And it created that small window of opportunity. I didn't even think McDavid had a ton of space to get that shot off. And when he did, I was just flabbergasted. And he beat Jacob Markstrom, who was not at his best in this series at all. Yeah, there's some great photos, some great videos of the goal and how it all went down. Leon Draisaitl, I guess, was stuck on the ice and was celebrating with fans. He didn't get into the huddle. Epic for so many reasons. And yeah, that's fitting how it ends. But the Gaudreau flyby was the one that got me, because all he had to do was engage, and that pass isn't there, and that window for the shot isn't there for Connor McDavid. And we could be talking about Game 6 tomorrow night in Edmonton.
You were sleeping this morning, so you probably missed it. But Diener from FUBAR.
Yes,
he called into the show this morning. So I'm sitting there, and we're like, "Okay, we're going to the phones. Let's load up the lines." So we went to break, and Eric's doing a Sports Center update. So I'm grabbing some callers, and the first one, I can't remember, Kent and Mike or something. I get to the third call. I pick it up. I'm like, "Hello, who's this?" He goes, "It's Diener from the movies." And I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, "Oh, Diener from the movies, FUBAR." I'm like, "Oh, okay, man." And I'm thinking, this guy's just pretending to be Dean from FUBAR. And so I said, "Oh, okay, what movies, man?" He goes, "FUBAR, man." I said, "This is Diener from FUBAR?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm a huge Oilers fan. Didn't you know that?" I said, "No, sorry, man. I didn't know that." He goes, "Oh, man." He goes, "I'm on like 7 minutes sleep. I'm fired up to get on with you guys." I was just like, "All right, man, hang on the line." So then I went and checked his Twitter account. It's just a steady diet of Oilers tweets. I had no idea. And then he had an awesome call. Like, he just came on and slayed it. It was, in fact, he dropped a slade on us. It was, it was classic, man. It was funny.
What's funny is I saw him Game 2 coming down the media elevator at the Saddle Dome. He was going up, and like that movie. Like, they lived that. Like, that's how he was dressed. I don't know if he was in character or if he was just
that's just how those guys are.
Yeah.
Like,
and I just walked by and I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
that's Diener from FUBAR.
Yeah. Snack 10 is in and says he changed teams a few years ago. There you go. Who knows? Like, I think Terry's the Flames fan. So, it works out pretty well. That was good. All right, let's get to your Ken Morrison Remax question of the day, brought to you by our friend Ken Morrison. If you're buying or selling, 780-993-4815. You can also visit his website at kenrmorrison.com. He is a Remax Hall of Famer. What's the question today, Tommy?
All right, the Ken Morrison Remax excellent question of the day for this fine edition of the Oil Stream is this: Dusty Nielsen in the conference final against either the St. Louis Blues or the Colorado Avalanche. Will Jay Woodcroft go back to 3 centers, the spine of his forward group, as he called it, with McDavid centering his own line, Draisaitl centering his own line, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins centering his own line to add depth and layers to the offense? Or does he stick with the 2 big lines and then the 2 lines that just kind of eat up minutes when need be?
That's a great question. Part of me wants to think that he'll start this, and it might depend on the opponent. Like, it's a weird sort of thing, because I like the way the Oilers play the Avs, and I think the Blues, with their experience and their core and probably a better ability to shut down the Oilers than maybe the Avs, who might just want to open it up and run and gun. Like, I almost like if it's likely they get the Avs. I'm there's a part of me that's like, yeah, I think that matchup might even be better for them. So I could see him starting by going back to it. But I think he just kind of rolls with they just won 4 in a row and knocked off their arch rival. Like, and I mean, I know I saw some people tweet out a few things on him. McLeod, Puljujarvi, Fogle spent more time in the offensive zone than they did in the defensive zone last night. And if you can do that against a Calgary team that's supposed to be desperate, Kane, Nugent, Yamo, they were good last night too. They weren't great, but they were good last night. They didn't get in a lot of trouble. And then McDavid, Draisaitl, they might go back to McDavid, Draisaitl, Kane, and put Hyman back down there. But I think I think he'll stick with what's worked so well lately. But if Draisaitl continues to get healthier, buddy, there would be no hesitation for him to go back to those 3 guys, I would think. Where do you come out on this?
I think it has to do with Draisaitl's health, because it balances out the lineup much better. Yes, they're less top heavy if they do that as well. But I could see the temptation to stick with what's working. And again, it hinges on Leon's leg and how that's holding up. If it's not at 100%, if he can't drive a line, if he's better complementing, taking faceoffs and playing the wing, then you have a good situation. Like, you have a good problem here where you have some solutions. You can move the chess pieces around. But I'm just thinking those teams, even though Calgary has depth too, the depth didn't show up for the Flames till game 5 anyway. But those other teams, the Blues and the Avs, they have more depth. And if you really want to evenly match up, I think that maybe there is a desire to get back to having those 3 guys down the middle for you. So that's why I think it's a possibility. But do I think it's an inevitability? No, not necessarily. I think that because of how things are going right now, maybe he keeps riding that.
He's got a lot of options. I mean, he could eventually go back to that. He could mix in the 11-7 again if he wants. Yep. And he said, even in the regular season, like, they've been put in some spots where they had to try some few things with, Draisaitl banged up for a little bit there, Darnell Nurse missing some time. Like, he has probably a pretty good feel about all the different options that he has with this group, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guarantee he's already strategizing for both teams and playing out scenarios just like he did with last night's tweak to the top 2 lines. Yeah. And how it worked out. So it's going to be interesting to see how he deploys those guys. I just thought to myself, maybe given the depth that those 2 teams do have, the Blues and the Avs, that he looks to deepen his roster if Draisaitl's leg is good enough to do so. But, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to complain if he keeps those top 2 lines the way they are and the way they've been clicking.
I think the only reason, or the main reason, not the only reason, but the main reason I'd like to see them win another round is to see what he does for the door flip and wait. Like the gate. What's he do next? Does he just jump over it? Just jump right over it? Doesn't even care? Just hops right over the boards? 2 feet? That'd be something.
Yeah, man, I don't think he could do that. I think, you're risking a back injury by slipping on the ice there.
All right, well, here we are. The Edmonton Oilers getting by the Calgary Flames in 5 games. And now, I can't believe we're even saying this, but the Edmonton Oilers are waiting for an opponent in the Western Conference Final, and it could very well be the Colorado Avalanche. They have a chance to get that done tonight. Tommy, I know it's been a busy time for you over the last little while. Obviously, it's a busy time for everybody in the city, whether you're a fan, you run a restaurant, you're in the media. It's been a busy time, a little bit of downtime here on the weekend. So you get some rest, my friend, and we'll be back with more Oil Stream content next week, all right?
Golf on Sunday. You tell me if you're coming.
Yeah,
okay?
I'll let you know. I'll fire you a text this afternoon, all right?
Oh, I love it.
Okay, and have fun with the siren tonight.
Oh, I will. Crank that siren at the Stingers
in
game.
the Hive. In the Hive.
At the Hive. Check it out. If you're going to be there, come say hi. I'll be ready to rock and roll for sure.
There you go. For Tommy, I'm Nielsen. Enjoy the victory, Oilers fans. Enjoy your weekend. We'll be back with more content next week.